Silence from a woman isn't always absence. Sometimes it's the beginning of a different kind of conversation. One that doesn't come through words, but through distance. And if you've ever sat with that quiet, you know the feeling, the unanswered message, the days stretching out, the ache of uncertainty creeping in, and suddenly your mind turns against you, searching for something you might have done wrong or something you should have done better. But what if the silence wasn't about you losing her, but about you finding you? Most men think silence is rejection, but the truth is, it's a mirror, a test, a moment of reckoning, not with her, but with yourself. Because when you no longer hear her voice, all you're left with is your own. And if you don't know how to be steady in that quiet, you'll start chasing noise just to escape it. In this video, we're not just decoding what her silence might mean. We're going to explore what it reveals about her patterns, about your instincts, and most importantly, about the strength you've been asked to uncover, not to win her back, but to come back to yourself. If that speaks to something you felt, like this video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and let's begin. Because silence doesn't mean you've lost her. It might mean it's time to reclaim you. Now, let's dive in. 1. Silence doesn't mean rejection. It reveals her rhythm. When the messages stop coming, when your phone stays quiet and the space between her replies stretches into days, the mind naturally fills in the blanks. Most men take her silence as a clear sign that she's lost interest, that she's pulling away, that something is broken beyond repair. But that interpretation often says more about our own insecurity than it does about her intentions. Silence, especially in the emotional language of women, isn't always a declaration. It's a rhythm, a flow. While many men communicate in direct, linear ways, expecting consistency, routine, and immediate feedback, women often move in emotional cycles. They process inwardly. Their need for connection can ebb and flow depending on their stress, their emotions, their internal world. And sometimes that silence isn't rejection, it's restoration. It's her way of reconnecting with herself, not disconnecting from you. But here's the trap most men fall into. They assume the worst. They panic. They start sending multiple messages, rereading old conversations, looking for clues or worse, trying to fix what was never broken. That reactive energy, the chasing, the overanalyzing, the need to reclaim her attention, rarely pulls her closer. In fact, it pushes her further away. Because what she feels in that moment isn't leadership, it's neediness. And beneath that behavior is a deeper fear, one most men don't name, the fear of sitting with themselves. What feels unbearable isn't her silence, it's the void it creates inside. A void many have spent years filling with attention, affection, or distraction. When she goes quiet, you're left alone with your own thoughts, your own doubts, your own sense of worth. And if your value depends on her presence, her validation, or her constant communication, then of course the silence feels like rejection. But the truth is, her silence is neutral until you assign it meaning. And in that space, you have a choice: to spiral into fear or to anchor into presence. Because once you realize that her rhythm isn't meant to validate or destroy you, but to reflect where she is emotionally, you stop reacting and start responding with strength, with stillness, with trust in who you are, regardless of the noise or the quiet. 2. Stillness isn't waiting, it's mastery. Most men confuse stillness with weakness. They believe that if they're not saying something, doing something, proving something, they're losing ground. So when she goes quiet, they feel pressure to act, to send a message, to ask what's wrong, to somehow fill the space with sound or effort. But that impulse isn't strength, it's fear in disguise. Real strength is restraint. It's choosing not to react to every emotion that passes through you. When you don't hear from her, Your mind may try to pull you into chaos. It will whisper doubts, replay conversations, scroll through her social media, trying to make sense of what feels like uncertainty. But this is where the Stoic shift changes everything. Stillness doesn't mean you're frozen. It means you're grounded. Stillness is not about waiting for her to come back. It's about reclaiming your center so that no one's absence has the power to unbalance you. You're not holding your breath. You're breathing deeply on your own terms. You're not retreating. You're expanding inward. You're not ignoring her. You're honoring yourself. The world can spin. People can pull away. But the man who chooses presence over panic, self-respect over reaction, becomes immovable. And that kind of calm, deliberate energy isn't just rare, it's magnetic. Because in a world full of noise, the one who doesn't flinch becomes the one they remember. She doesn't need you to chase her. She needs to feel that you won't lose yourself without her. And when you show her that, not through words, but through the quiet power of your stillness, you offer something no chase can replace: emotional safety. And that is what mastery truly looks like. 3. You're not being ignored, you're being observed. When she goes quiet, most men assume they're being pushed away, dismissed, or forgotten. But what often goes unnoticed is that silence can be far more revealing than any conversation. Women don't always test your strength through conflict. Many times they test it through absence, not to manipulate, but to witness, to see who you are without the mirror of their attention. That space she creates, it isn't always punishment. More often it's a question left unspoken. Can you stay composed when she's no longer confirming your worth? Can you continue leading your life, keeping your frame, your vision, your purpose intact, without needing her constant presence to feel validated? She's not looking for the perfect response. She's watching how your energy shifts, or doesn't, when hers is no longer affirming you. If your sense of identity wavers the moment she withdraws, she feels that collapse. She feels the neediness behind every anxious message. She senses the emotional instability hidden in your desire to close the gap too quickly. But when you remain grounded, when you keep living, building, evolving without flinching, she feels something else entirely. Not fear, not guilt, but gravity. There's a quiet intensity in a man who doesn't chase, doesn't panic, doesn't need her to hold himself together. That's the energy that earns respect, that evokes curiosity, that deepens attraction without a word being spoken, because in truth, her silence isn't always about where she stands. Sometimes it's a subconscious search for proof, not of your love, but of your stability. And the man who passes that test is the one she won't forget. 4. The more you chase, the more she withdraws. There's a silent tension that builds the moment you feel her slipping away. And for many men, the instinct is to reach out, to close the gap, to prove they still matter. But what they don't realize is that every anxious gesture, every double text, every attempt to rekindle the warmth too quickly, often has the opposite effect. The more you chase her presence, the more she retreats into distance. This isn't because she wants to hurt you. It's because the energy has shifted. What was once mutual attraction becomes imbalance. She no longer feels desired, she feels pressure. And when pressure replaces polarity, something sacred is lost. You might think a simple message, just thinking about you, comes from a place of care. But often it carries a quiet signal of anxiety, not confidence, not composure. A message like that doesn't reassure her. It reminds her that you're unsettled, waiting, seeking her response to regulate your emotions. And while you may not intend to appear desperate, that energy is always felt beneath the surface. Women are deeply intuitive to emotional shifts, even the ones you don't speak out loud. The tragedy is that your effort to be closer ends up making her feel smothered, not seen but surrounded, not free to choose but trapped by your urgency, and no woman chooses love when she feels cornered. If you want her to come back, stop chasing, not out of pride but out of principle. The principle that love, at its healthiest, is chosen, not extracted. The man who understands this learns to lean back with strength, not spite. He honors space not as defeat, but as the only condition where real desire has room to grow. 5. Don't fill the silence. Fill your life. When the silence grows loud, most men fall into the trap of waiting for a text, a call, a sign that she still cares. They linger in a space between hope and fear, scrolling through memories and second-guessing every interaction. But what they don't realize is that this waiting, this emotional limbo, isn't stillness, it's stagnation. The answer isn't to fill the silence with words, it's to fill your life with meaning. You stop checking your phone every hour, not because you've given up, but because you've started showing up for yourself. You stop drafting unsent messages, not out of indifference, but because your energy has moved to something that actually moves you. The shift is internal, quiet, but powerful. Reclaim your attention, put it into something that expands you. Pick up the book you left unfinished. Rebuild your health with discipline. Spend time with men who challenge you, not just those who comfort you. Chase your potential, not her approval, because when you live a life that excites you again, her silence no longer feels like a punishment. It simply becomes a part of the background noise you no longer need to interpret. And here's the paradox. When you finally stop pouring your energy toward her absence, she begins to feel it. She may not know why, but the absence of your attention becomes a presence of its own. Not as a tactic, but as a reflection of your growth. When your life becomes too full to revolve around someone who isn't showing up, you stop waiting and start evolving. And the man who evolves in silence doesn't need closure. His progress becomes the only answer that matters. 6. When she comes back, respond like a man who's moved forward. There may come a moment when the silence breaks. It won't always be dramatic. Sometimes it's just a short message, a casual emoji, a comment on something you posted, as if the distance never happened. And in that moment, everything inside you stirs. You might feel hope, confusion, or even the pull of old longing. But that's exactly where most men slip, by letting emotion dictate their response. What you do next doesn't just shape the moment, it defines who you've become. Don't react, respond. There's a difference. Reacting comes from the part of you that was waiting, watching, wondering if she'd ever return. Responding comes from the man who used the silence to grow, the man who didn't wait, he rebuilt. So when she reaches out, don't flood her with unspoken thoughts. Don't offer a lecture to make her understand what she missed. And don't play the role of the distant alpha hoping to look powerful. Just be honest. Be steady. Be the version of yourself that kept walking forward, because that version doesn't need to prove anything. His progress speaks for itself. If she wants to come back into your life, she's stepping into a new story, one where your standards have shifted, not out of bitterness, but from clarity. You're not asking her to chase you. You're not punishing her either, but you're no longer offering unrestricted access to someone who didn't stay. That boundary isn't built on ego, it's built on self-respect. Because when a man moves forward in silence and strength, he doesn't close the door in anger. He simply leaves it unlocked, on the condition that anyone who enters again must meet him at the level he rose to alone. Let me be real with you, man. If you're in that space right now, staring at a silent phone, wondering what her distance means, I want you to know something. You're not broken, and this isn't the end. But how you respond to this silence, that's what defines the man you're becoming. Throughout everything I've shared, the message has been simple but hard to live. Don't rush to fill the silence. Learn to live in it. Her quiet moments aren't always rejection. Sometimes they're just part of her emotional rhythm. And if you don't understand that, you'll take it personally, spiral into anxiety, and start chasing something that never needed fixing. You see, stillness isn't weakness, it's mastery. Most men confuse action with progress, but the truth is, some of your biggest growth happens when you don't chase, when you don't react, when you choose calm over control. That's when your presence becomes powerful. Her silence? It might not be pushing you away. It might be watching who you become without her gaze. Women feel your energy, and when that energy turns from grounded to grasping, they withdraw, not because they stopped caring, but because they stopped feeling safe. And let's be honest, most of the pain we feel in those moments doesn't come from her absence. It comes from the void we never learned to face alone. So what's the answer? Stop trying to fix the silence. Fill your life instead, with purpose, with challenge, with movement. Because when you do, her silence loses power over you, and paradoxically, that's when she starts to feel yours. And if she does return, don't meet her with bitterness, meet her with boundaries. Respond like a man who's evolved, not a man who was waiting. The life lesson is this: your peace, your direction, your self-worth can't be held hostage by someone else's presence. When you stop reacting and start rising, the silence becomes your teacher, not your enemy. And that shift, that's where real power begins. So, whatever you're facing right now, hold your center. Keep building. Keep evolving. If this message touched something real in you, like the video, subscribe to Stoic Station. And remember this: your strength lies in how calmly you carry your truth.